They all are muted, sir.
Okay. So what medium I have to choose? मराठी मध्ये
Both language, sir. English, Marathi, or
दोन्हीत बोललं तर चालेल ना?
yes, sir. काही problem नाही.
Okay, no issue. So we are going to start our session with this particular point where I'm going to tell you something about the methods of data collection. आपण हे डेटा कलेक्शनच्या थोड्याशा मेथड्स बघू, ज्या मेथड्स इम्पॉर्टंट आहेत प्रत्येक रिसर्चच्या बाबतीत. It is not defined for any special research or any special subject. They are possibly common for all the subjects. सगळ्या विषयांसाठी त्या कॉमन आहेत, पण त्यातल्या त्यात काही विषयांसाठी त्या थोड्याशा काही वेगळ्या असू शकतात. जसं सायन्स आहे, सायन्समध्ये थोडंसं एक्सपेरिमेंटल बेस्ड म्हणू किंवा आपण त्याला म्हणू की क्वांटिटेटिव्ह पेक्षा क्वालिटेटिव्ह बेस्ड रिसर्च वरती जास्त म्हणजे त्या प्रकारात दिला जातो. परंतु सोशल सायन्समध्ये जसं सर्वेज किंवा ह्या गोष्टीमध्ये, कॉमर्समध्ये जसं सेकंडरी डेटा तुम्ही घेऊन मग त्या सेकंडरी डेटाला तुम्ही प्रोसेस करता. सेकंडरी डेटा इन द सेन्स की द डेटा विच इज ऑलरेडी सप्लाइड बाय सम, लेट्स से some financial institution. He has supplied some data and you are analyzing that data and you are finding out some trend in that data. कम्प्युटर सायन्स मध्ये असतं, जसं तुम्हाला एक अल्गोरिदम लिहावं लागतं आणि हा अल्गोरिदम एका प्रकारच्या डेटामध्ये कन्वर्ट करून एका प्रकारच्या डेटाला नंतर प्रोसेस करून वेगवेगळ्या कन्वर्ट करतं. अँड देन यू आर गोइंग टू compare those parameters and then you are going to tell about what is the output which you are going to get out of that. Okay, that is some kind of, now these methods of data collection is different for different disciplines: science, commerce, management, social science, humanities. All everywhere they are going to be slightly different, but the way they are going to be collected is somehow you can say that they are somehow you can same. Now these this PPT which I have prepared, or this PDF file which I have prepared, I use different websites and different literature to prepare this one. Main two sources are given in the blue line on the top here. That main two lines are basically these two lines where I use major data or major text from in this particular slides are from these two particular websites, and then there are some other things which are added from the book and from the websites and all. I have given all the references in that particular respective book. Now, what is mean by data? We guys know what is mean by data. Data, we know something about when you are talking about data, or when you are talking about when you have a mobile phone which is connected with the internet and you are using that internet and you are seeing that, okay, I almost consume 1.7 GB or 1.9 GB of data of the today or full day throughout the 24 hours. So what that means, what you have done, you have used the data means you have used that particular bandwidth to find out something in which you are interested, that may be some kind of information, that may be some kind of newspaper, that may be some kind of site where you are going to get the share information, the financial information, or whatever. Now, data is basically a unit of information. It could be numeric or it could be through any other means like observation, where you are going to see that what type of observation you are going to make, and that particular information which you are getting is called as data. And it could be it could have a set of values which are normally quantitative or qualitative, and these are variables. Either they are with particular point, particular person, particular subject, or they are with respect to many people, many points, many subjects like that, and you are going to come and then you are going to generate the data. Now, what type of data we are getting? We are getting numerous data, a huge amount of data which is generated from geographical point of view, cultural point of view, scientific point of view, financial, statistical, meteorological, natural, transportation, every kind of data. Now there is a huge bunch of data which is available today on internet or in the data centers. Now these data are collected by various methods. Okay, there are various methods to collect the data. The data could be collected by in a different in a different way by considering the what is the type of data, how is the data is collected going to be collected, and what is the response and settings for that data collection. So based depend on this one, you are going to mention which type of data you are going to get. Okay, there as we said, now we are going to look at some of the basic two types of data which you are going to use for your research purpose in various fields. Now these two types of data are basically the primary data and the secondary data. What is mean by primary data? Primary data तो डेटा आहे जो डेटा सगळ्यात पहिल्यांदा कलेक्ट केलेला आहे. सगळ्यात पहिल्यांदा म्हणजे फर्स्ट इन्स्टन्स तो पहिल्यांदाच कलेक्ट केलेला आहे. एकदा पहिल्यांदा जसं की पहिल्यांदा काहीतरी गोष्ट होती आणि तो डेटा त्यावेळेस तिथेच कलेक्ट झाला. So that is basically a fresh data which is going to be used or which is going to be generated. So that kind of data is called as a primary data, which is an original data. Then secondary data is the data which somebody has already used, somebody has already collected, and now that has been processed and given to you to use it for different process. So that is called as a secondary data. So the primary data, in case of primary data, what you are going to get, if you are a banker, you are working in a bank and you are going to collect the you want to collect the data from the particular consumer or customer. Now what you are going to ask to that, what is your name, what is blah blah blah, financial condition, different address, Aadhaar card, everything. Okay, this data you have got it from that person. Are you getting at first time? No, this data has already been supplied to various places in various banks or various institutions. But still, when you got that data at the first time, that data you have collected from that organization through interview. Okay, so the primary data is the data, fresh data, which is collected for a particular purpose, and that is collected by you at the first time. Then there are methods. There's observing a moderate discussion among the people you choose to collect the data. You see, this is like an interview process where the secondary data is the data which you have got from some source. Some source means which is as a data bank, like Google Analytics report on your website traffic, on the website traffic. That is analyzed by that Google, and then it is supplied to you. Somebody who is working on informatics sciences, or library sciences, they may get these kind of data on particular kind of books. Now these books are these books are going to be used, how these books are going to provide more information, or what kind of information to the audience or to the public or to the researcher. Now whether that book is good or bad or something like that, but instead of saying good bad, we'll say that whether the book contains the information or not, whether the book contains that kind of graphics or not, whether that book is applicable to UG student or higher than PG student, or like these kind of things. Okay, then the information you collected from census and electoral statistics means this is the census is the first information collection center where the first data is going to be collected by the census, and then that data is going to be handed over to the other companies or other researchers who are going to use that data for their particular research point of view. Okay, now there are various ways to collect the primary data and the secondary data. We are going to discuss how these ways are, what type of ways are there to collect this primary data. Now the primary data is a type of data that is collected by the research directly from the main source. And it means if I am the main source and you are the data collectors, you are collecting that data from me. Okay, so I'm going to give you that particular kind of data. That could be through any ways. कुठल्याही प्रकारे तुम्ही देऊ शकतो. I can give that data to you through interviews. I can give that data to you through surveys, through experiments. There are various ways. There are various ways to collect that particular kind of data. The primary data are usually collected from source, where the data originally originate from and are regarded as the best. That means it's the data which is collected from that particular source That source is going to give you that first time is going to give you that data, the initial data. Okay, and based on that, you are going to do your research. Though there are several ways to collect this primary data. Likewise, we have said that the data is collected in various ways. In case of primary data, there are various ways to collect the primary data. We have seen three basic ways to collect the data is over here. Through interviews, through surveys, through some experiment, through observations, and experiment means through observations like that. Okay, now we are going to see that way particular in particular. Now, first way is the interview. In interview, you are going to ask the person regarding some point or regarding his experience or regarding his opinion about a particular part of bank or particular part of that particular institution or something like that, and particular part of a book or something like for a book. So you are going to interview a person to collect the data, and whatever the data which is collected in this process, in the interview process, is basically the data which is there in the fresh or which is there collected first time from that person. Okay, through interview. Now, interview can be depend on, you can ask various questions in the interviews from that particular person. You can ask the data, or you can ask the person different questions. From these questions, you will get the data. You will just note down the data in your computer and then or on the notepad or anything, and then you are going to use that data for further action or for the further process. So this is one kind of way you can do. You can interview the people, get the data about that particular point. Let's say we are going to take the data about an network coverage of any mobile connection. Let's say there are various mobile companies, and we are going to collect the data by interviewing person by person, and we are going to see how this data, whether people are happy with that particular connection or not happy with that or satisfied with that connection, they are getting the maximum priority or like that kind of thing. And that kind of data can be collected through this interview process. In this interview process, the interviewer is going to interview random people. They will choose random persons and they will interview those persons. And based on their interviews, they are going to get the data. Like they will ask some questions in the interview. Like, okay, what you are surfing on the internet, what you are using you are using this data, internet data, or the mobile service, or this particular operator or mobile operator. So likewise, and depending on the satisfactory answer, particular interviewing person or from you, they will collect the data, and that data can be used. Okay, that's why they said that, okay, 95% of the people who are using particular kind of mobile connection are happy with their network, are happy with their call rate, calling clarity, are happy with their internet speed, are happy with their recharge, are happy with their whatever the services they are going to get out of that. Okay, now this kind of data they are going to collect from the interview. Like this is one example which I took about the mobile network. About there are various points in which in personal interviews where different kinds of data can be taken. Either that data could be for the network, for studies, for financial purpose, for census purpose, different. Okay, वेगवेगळ्या पद्धतीसाठी हा आपल्याला डेटा वापरता येईल त्यांच्याकडनं आता इंटरव्ह्यू मधनं घेतला. देन दुसरा डेटा कलेक्ट, प्रायमरी डेटा कलेक्ट करण्याची पद्धत आहे ती म्हणजे सर्वे करायची. आता सर्वे करण्यासाठी काय करावं लागेल तुम्हाला, एक लोकॅलिटी पकडावं लागेल. एका लोकॅलिटी म्हणजे मी काय करतो, एक लोकॅलिटी घेतली. समजा मी नांदेडमध्ये राहतोय आणि मी विष्णुपुरीचा भाग घेतला आणि मी या भागात पाण्याच्या समस्येवरती मला एक डेटा कलेक्ट करायचा. Whether they are getting enough water in their home, whether they clear water, like that. So I'll gather a group of people. And I throw in front of them. And I just listen to their answers. How many people out of 10 are going to be happy with the water condition? How many people are there who are not happy with the water condition? How many people do have a tap connected in the municipality tap which is connected in their home? How many people don't have? What improvements they want? Like that kind of data that can be collected through surveys, or survey can be done on not on this point, on every point. Okay, so this is one kind of way where you can collect the primary data. Then another way is the descriptive research. Descriptive research, where you are going to read or you are going to describe your research purpose, or you are going to describe that particular in a documented way. Okay, you are going to provide that in a documented way, and that documented way is going to be converted as a primary data. Okay, descriptive research are often foundational. It's basically in fundamental research, or it is in foundational research. They basically depend on classification, identification of relevant variables. These variables could be time dependent, independent, region dependent. There are various aspects. There are various points for which you can collect this kind of data through this descriptive research, or generating new research questions. This is also one of the way. Now, if we are looking into this descriptive way of research, this descriptive way of research there are some characteristics of this descriptive way research. The descriptive research refers to the research-based questions, design of the study, and the data analysis conducted on that particular topic. It is also called as an observational research method. The descriptive method is basically called as an observational method, like we are doing in science. We are doing in science, that is an observational method. Like whether at what point let's say some values of that particular component is changing, at what point the particular color of that material is going to change, at what point people start looking at that particular object from long or from shorter distances. Like that kind of research is done through the descriptive or observational research. Okay, and in descriptive research, we obtain a primary data either through observation or through direct communication with the respondent in one form or through personal interview. So this data which is observed, which we can get it from this particular kind of descriptive research is through direct communication, indirect communication with the respondent, or through the personal interview. Then there is a primary. This is the way you can collect the primary data. This is just a brief about the primary data. Now we are going to collect the secondary data. Now how you can collect the secondary data? Secondary data could be collected by different way. It is referred to the data which have already been collected and analyzed by someone else. Secondary data may either be published or unpublished data. It could be published in the paper or census or something like that, and in the magazines and all, and you are taking the data from there. Researchers must be careful in using the secondary data, because always the secondary data is always not a true data. There may be something which is fishy in that, means something which is wrong in that, but you don't have to 100% believe on the secondary data. You have to use the secondary data and cross-check the probabilities or cross-check the outcome. And based on that, you can use this secondary data. Okay, the common sources of secondary data in case of social science. This is basically census, information about by the government department, organizational records, or that could be originally collected from other research or for other research purposes. So these are the way you can collect the secondary data. Primary data, there may be something wrong in primary data also, but eventually when do an experiment with the primary data, when you try to analyze the primary data, at that time you are coming at a conclusion where you can see that the data quality of the data. Whereas the secondary data, there may be possible that the secondary data may have some errors in it, and that those errors will get magnified when you collect this, when you are going to use it again. When this initial secondary data do have error of 10%, and if you are using the secondary data, then if you don't know about the correction or don't know about the error, you are going to magnify the error. You are going to increase the error in that. Okay, that's why in secondary data we have to be very careful when we are going to get a data. We have to always cross-check the data which you are going to get in as in secondary form. Like, okay, in case of census, we cannot say that the census, right? The secondary data which you are getting from an authorized source, like census data, is you are getting it from a government department, and that data is going to be that department is an authorized department, and that data will that particular section of that particular government department will not give you the wrong data. They will give you the correct data. But when you are getting that data due to some printing mistake, let's say there are printing mistake, there are some grammatical mistakes, or instead of saying grammatical mistake, the printing mistake, some page is missing, then what happens is that whatever data you get may have something lagging behind in between. म्हणजे त्याच्यामध्ये काहीतरी कमी आहे. त्या प्रिंटिंग मिस्टेक मुळे काय झालं, त्याच्यामध्ये काहीतरी आकडे चुकीचे झाले. आता 8च्या ऐवजी ते तुम्हाला 6 दिसलं, किंवा 6च्या ऐवजी तुम्हाला 8 दिसलं, किंवा 7च्या ऐवजी 1 दिसलं आणि 1च्या ऐवजी 7 दिसलं. तर काय होईल, तिथे खूप फरक, म्हणजे तिथे एरर यायला चालू होतो त्या डेटामध्ये. आणि तो एरर जसं तुम्ही काम करत जासाल, जसं तर तुम्ही डेटा वापरत असाल, तो एरर वाढत जाईल. त्यामुळे जो डेटा आपण घेतोय तो करेक्ट फॉर्म मध्ये, सेकंडरी डेटा जरी घेतोय तो करेक्ट फॉर्म मध्ये आहे की नाही हे पहिल्यांदा तुम्हाला क्रॉस व्हेरीफाय करणं गरजेचं आहे. जरी तो गव्हर्नमेंट डिपार्टमेंट मिळत असेल, जरी तो तुम्ही स्वतः कलेक्ट केलेला असेल, कुठल्या मॅगझिन मधनं घेतला असेल, कुठल्या ऑर्गनायझेशनच्या रेकॉर्ड मधनं घेतला असेल, तरी एक फर्स्ट इन्स्टन्सला तुम्हाला तो डेटा, सेकंडरी डेटा क्रॉस व्हेरीफाय करून घेणं गरजेचं आहे. म्हणजे यू कॅन सिलेक्ट अ रॅन्डम पॉइंट, ऍट दॅट रॅन्डम पॉइंट यू कॅन क्रॉस व्हेरीफाय द डेटा. If you get the same values at the random points, that means there is no error in the data. That way, those are the ways to find out errors in that secondary data. Okay, now we'll go ahead and we'll see some basic methods in which you can find out, or you can collect the data. Okay, we have done that thing in brief earlier in the top side, in the upper side of this presentation, but now we are going in detail of that. The primary data you can get it through observation method. It is like you are observing something. You are observing the sunset point. You are observing when the sunset is going to be there at that particular trajectory or in that particular region, and you are observing it continuously for various days, continuously for long period. Means like 2 वर्षासाठी 3 वर्षासाठी तुम्ही तो डेटा घेताय, and that has been that observation by the observer or personally going into the field. That means तुम्ही रोज तिथे बसून पर्टिक्युलर डेटा घेताय, आणि तुम्ही पर्सनली त्या ठिकाणी व्हिजिट करताय, किंवा कोणाकडनं तरी तुम्ही व्हिजिट करून तो डेटा घेताय. So this is basically an observational method. So there are some advantages in observational method and there are some disadvantages, and there are some ways you can take an observation. What are the advantages in that one? Subjective bias elimination. What is mean by that? Subjective bias elimination म्हणजे नो बायस इन्फॉर्मेशन, नो बायसिंग होत नाही. म्हणजे कुठल्याही प्रकारचं याच्यामध्ये आपण त्याला बायसिंगला मराठीत कसं म्हणता येईल, माझं थोडस मराठीमध्ये मला शब्द यायला लवकर सापडत नाहीत, त्यामुळं आय बेग यू पार्डन, बट स्टील द बायस म्हणजे कुठल्या प्रकारचं त्याला बॅकिंग किंवा कुठल्या प्रकारचं एक पर्टिक्युलर मनामध्ये विचार ठेवूनच ते आपण फक्त ऑब्झर्वेशन करत नाही. ठीक आहे. सो ऍडव्हान्टेज, information researcher get in correct information, means whatever the information the research is going to get, that is then correct information. Independent of respondents variable, that data, whatever data you are going to get is independent of respondents variable. म्हणजे व्हेरिएबलच्या रिस्पॉन्डंटच्या कुठल्याही व्हेरिएबल, म्हणजे तो घरी असला काय, तो ऑफिसमध्ये असला काय, तो मार्केटमध्ये असला काय, तो मूवी बघायला असला काय, तो रेस्टॉरंट मध्ये असला काय, त्याचा डेटा काही प्रकारचा चेंज नाही होणार, सगळीकडे तो डेटा सारखा आहे. ओके, दिस इज द ऍडव्हान्टेज ऑफ ऑब्झर्वेशनल मेथड. दॅट मीन्स इफ यू आर ऑब्झर्विंग अ पर्सन इन अ मार्केट, इफ यू आर ऑब्झर्विंग अ पर्सन इन हिज होम, if you are observing a person in its workplace, if you are observing a person on his home's terrace or her home's terrace, if you are going to get the correct data, everywhere you are going to get the data. It is variables are these variables, means workplace, home, terrace, outside the home, garden मध्ये आहे, इकडे आहे, तिकडे. These are the terrace, or these are the things. Okay, now where you are going to get the data, these are the variables. Now there are some like advantages, there are some disadvantages about this data. What are those? This is an expensive method because you need to spend a lot of time in collecting the data. म्हणजे काय अर्थ झाला, इट इज अन एक्सपेन्सिव्ह मेथड. तुम्हाला खूप वेळ घालवावा लागेल ऑब्झर्वेशन. म्हणजे मला जर सनसेट बघायचं असेल आणि मला सनसेटचा जर डेटा कलेक्ट करायचा असेल एका पर्टिक्युलर रिजन मध्ये, तर त्या रिजन मध्ये मला 1 दिवस 2 दिवस नाही, कंटिन्युअसली 1-1.5 वर्ष कंटिन्युअस काम करावं लागेल. म्हणजे प्रत्येक ऋतू जो आहे तो 2-2 वेळेस किंवा 3-3 वेळेस गेल्याच्या नंतर त्या तिन्ही ऋतूंमध्ये जो मला डेटा मिळतोय तो डेटा मी समराईज करून त्याला ऍव्हरेज काढून मग मी त्याचं सांगणार आहे की ओके, या समर मध्ये या रिजन मध्ये एवढा वाजता सनसेट होतो किंवा सनराईज होतो असं मला. आणि मला हे 1 2 3 4 5 असं हे खूप वेळ करावं लागेल. एखाद्या पर्सनला तुम्ही ऑब्झर्व करताय, कन्सिडर यू आर अन पर्सन हू इज अन ऑब्झर्वर अँड यू आर ऑब्झर्विंग वन पर्सन. लाईक यू आर simple way to observe is like you are a spy and you are spying on that particular person. Now it is not very simple to be a spy or to observe a person. So in one instance you cannot tell the nature of that person or how the person is going to behave or what kind of data you want that from that person. In that one instance you cannot tell. You have to observe that person on time scale. Like you have to observe that person for minimum for 1 month. So there is an continuous means that person is going to behave in this particular fashion when he is in office. He is going to behave in this particular manner when he is in home. Likewise, you are now getting the data or the internet data. Like if you are in office, how much internet data you are using. When you are at home, how much internet data you are using. Likewise, you are collecting the particular for a particular point, like particular for the internet data. Okay, so that's why it is an expensive or time expensive in the sense हा वेळ घालवणारा, म्हणजे याच्यामध्ये खूप वेळ लागतो आणि याच्यामध्ये खूप लिमिटेड इन्फॉर्मेशन. म्हणजे फक्त एका पॉइंट बद्दलच तुम्ही त्याची इन्फॉर्मेशन, तुम्हाला व्हेरियस पॉइंट जर करायचे असेल तर तुम्हाला आणखीन खूप वेळ लागेल. Unforeseen factors may interfere with the observational task. Like if you are looking for an internet use of that particular person in throughout the daytime, and you are observing it for a longer time, and suddenly what happens is that person's mobile got damaged. Now at that time it may take few hours to that person to get the mobile repaired or to get a new mobile. So in that few hours his data is almost like zero. The data usage is almost like zero. And suddenly when he starts using a new mobile or repaired mobile, his data consumption suddenly increases. So there is a variation. So this interference, this is unseen interference. Means we don't know about the interference, or that person is going from his vehicle, he driving his vehicle, and suddenly some instance happened with him and his mobile got damaged. Now that instance and the damage of the mobile, these are the two things which are happening with that person. Now in these two things, and these are time dependent things. Now it will take a longer time for that person to get recovered from that, and he will take later on more time to start his mobile, so that you the data which he is going to means the users of internet users of that person. So unforeseen means कुठलाही इन्स्टन्स होऊ शकतो ज्याच्यामुळे तो डेटा मिळणं आपल्याला बंद होऊ शकतो त्याच्याकडे. रिस्पॉन्डंट ओपिनियन कॅनॉट बी रेकॉर्डेड ऑन सर्टन सब्जेक्ट. मीन्स त्याच्या रिस्पॉन्डंटचा ओपिनियन तुम्हाला नाही घेतात, बिकॉज यू आर जस्ट ऑब्झर्विंग, यू आर नॉट टॉकिंग विथ दॅट पर्सन. त्याचं ओपिनियन नाही घेत आहेत. हा रे बाबा कसं आहे रे, इकडे नेटवर्कचं कनेक्शन कसं आहे, हे कनेक्शन कसं आहे, ते कनेक्शन कसं आहे, याचं येतोय का बरोबर डेटा, याचा बरोबर येतोय का, याचा येतोय का, हे आपण त्याला विचारू नाही शकतो. आपण फक्त त्याच्या मोबाईल ऑपरेटर करणं, त्यांनी या इन्स्टन्सला कसं डेटा वापरलाय ह्याच्याबद्दलची आपण माहिती घेऊ शकतो. आपण त्याला विचारू नाही शकत की तुला कुठला आवड, तुला कुठला डेटा आवड, तुला कुठलं सर्व्हिस आवडेल, हे नाही विचारत. किंवा आपण त्याला पर्टिक्युलर कुठल्या तरी पॉइंटला आपण नाही म्हणू शकत त्याला की या पर्टिक्युलर सब्जेक्ट बद्दलचा आपण त्याला हे नाही करू शकत, ओपिनियन नाही घेऊ शकत. ओके, नाउ देर आर व्हेरियस वेज ऑफ ऑब्झर्वेशन. Now there are various ways of observation, in which first is the structured observation, where the structured observation, when the observation is done by the characterizing style of recording the observed information, standardized conditions for observation, definition of the unit to be observed, selection of the data, particular data of observation, then it is called as in structured data. Means you are observing that particular object or that particular आपण त्याला स्पेसिमन म्हणू किंवा आपण त्याला म्हणू की तुम्ही तो पर्टिक्युलरली त्या माणसाला किंवा त्या पर्टिक्युलर नेटवर्कला तुम्ही एका स्ट्रक्चर्ड वेनी ऑब्झर्व करता, एका स्ट्रक्चर वेनी म्हणजे स्टँडर्ड कंडिशन्स मध्ये ऑब्झर्व करताय किंवा तुम्ही त्याला व्यवस्थित त्याच्या प्रत्येक प्रकारामध्ये तुम्ही त्याला रेकॉर्ड करून घेताय. सो these are something like a structural unstructured observation. When observation is done without any thought before observing them, it's called as an unstructured observation. Like when we are sitting outside on generally आपण काय करतो, चहा प्यायला जातो बाहेर हॉटेलमध्ये वगैरे, and we are just looking here and there. It is not a structured way of looking to the people. It is the way you are going to see the people while you are drinking or while you are having a tea. हे सरळ सोपं साधी गोष्ट आहे. ज्यावेळेस तुम्ही चहा घेताय त्यावेळेस तुम्ही फक्त असं इकडे तिकडे नजर फिरवता. दॅट इज अ अनस्ट्रक्चर्ड वे. पण जर तुम्ही रिसर्च करण्यासाठी जर एखाद्या चहाच्या किंवा एखाद्या हॉटेलमध्ये गेलात तर तुम्ही काय विचार करसाल, स्ट्रक्चर्ड वेनी कसा विचार करसाल, सकाळ लंच आवर मध्ये गेलात, त्या लंच आवर मध्ये किती जण त्या हॉटेलमध्ये एंटर केलं एका पर्टिक्युलर टाइम मध्ये, 2 तासामध्ये किती जण एंटर केलं, त्या 2 तासामध्ये एंटर करणाऱ्यांपैकी किती मेल होते किती फिमेल होते, त्याच्यामध्ये तुम्ही आणखीन कसं विचार करसाल किती त्यात मुलं होते, म्हणजे लहान एक वय ठरवलं तुम्ही, समजा एक 15 वर्षाच्या खालचे किती होते, 15 वर्षाच्या वरचे किती होते आणि 60 वर्षाच्या वरती प्रौढ किती होते, एकदम वयस्क किती होते, प्रौढ किती होते आणि मुलं किती होती, हे तुम्ही वेगवेगळ्या प्रकारे तुम्ही घेताय. म्हणजे याला स्ट्रक्चर्ड वेनी तुम्ही मेजर करताय त्या डेटाला. म्हणजे एका रेस्टॉरंटमध्ये किती किंवा एका बँकेमध्ये किती लोक सकाळी 11 ते 2च्या मध्ये एंटर केले आणि त्यांचं वयोमान कसं होतं, किंवा वेदर दे आर कस्टमर्स ऑर नॉन कस्टमर, तुम्ही ते खातेधारक आहेत खातेधारकासोबत आलेले आहेत हे तुम्हाला माहिती नाही, पण तुम्ही जस्ट ऑब्झर्व करताय. ज्या बँकेमध्ये ते आले म्हणजे तुम्ही असं समजलं की ओके तो खातेधारकच आहे. पण जर लहान मूल आलं त्या बँकेमध्ये तर तुम्ही डेफिनेटली कन्सिडर करता की ते लहान मूल खातेधारक तर नसणार आहे. he or she may come with his parents or grandparents or something like that. So that's a structured or unstructured observation. Participant observation. These research can be recorded on natural behavior of the group. पार्टिसिपंट म्हणजे एका पर्टिक्युलर पार्टिसिपंटलाच ऑब्झर्व करताय किंवा एका पर्टिक्युलर ग्रुपला तुम्ही ऑब्झर्व करताय. तो ग्रुप त्याचे नॅचरल बिहेवियर तुम्ही रेकॉर्ड करताय. The researcher can verify the truth of the statement given by the informant in the context of questionnaire. क्वेश्चनियरच्या पद्धतीत सुद्धा तुम्ही त्याला ऑब्झर्वेशन रेकॉर्ड करू शकता. Difficult to collect information can obtain through this method, but in this researcher may lose objective of research due to emotional feeling. That means the interviewer may get connect with that particular interviewer or that particular researcher in an emotional way. Like तुम्ही बँकेत ऑब्झर्वेशनल डेटासाठी बसलात आणि तेवढ्यात तुमचे रिलेटिव्ह पैकी कोणीतरी बँकेत आलं. आता तुमच्या रिलेटिव्ह पैकी कोणीतरी बँकेत आल्यावर तुम्ही त्याला कन्सिडर करसाल ओके बँकेचा एक कस्टमर आहे, पण योगायोगाने काय you are emotionally attached to that particular person because he is your relative, he is your fast friend, let's say fast friend किंवा रिलेटिव्ह. त्यामुळे तुम्ही काय करसाल, थोड्या वेळासाठी तुमचं लक्ष जे आहे ते तुमच्या त्या मित्राकडे किंवा तुमच्या त्या पाहुण्याकडे किंवा काका मामा आजोबा कोणी असेल त्यांच्याकडे जाईल, सो दॅट इट विल डिस्ट्रॅक्ट यू फ्रॉम. सो participant observation. Now there is another one, non-participant observation. When observer is observing people without giving any information to them, then it is non-participant observation. म्हणजे त्याला कुठल्याही प्रकारची इन्फॉर्मेशन दिली नाही, काही सांगितलं नाही, तुम्ही फक्त बसलाय त्या खुर्चीवर जाऊन, काहीच लोकांना येणारे काहीच माहिती नाही की तुम्ही काय कलेक्ट करता, फक्त तुम्ही ऑब्झर्व करताय. कंट्रोल्ड ऑब्झर्वेशन. When the observation takes place according to definite pre-arranged plans, when with experimental procedures, then it is called as a controlled observation. So this is one way of taking and looking into that particular kind of observation. Uncontrolled way You don't have any control. Means there is, when the observation takes in place of natural condition, that means uncontrolled observation. How the customer is roaming in the or moving in that bank, uncontrolled way, means तुमचा त्याच्यावर काहीच कंट्रोल नाही. पण कंट्रोल मध्ये तुमचा कंट्रोल आहे विथ सम सर्टन प्लॅन. त्या पर्टिक्युलर ऑब्झर्वर, त्या पर्टिक्युलर पर्सन, तो पर्टिक्युलर पर्सन बँकेमध्ये कसा मूव्ह करतोय, किंवा तो बँकेमध्ये कुठल्या काउंटरवर गेला, कुठून गेला, कसा गेला, हे तुम्ही जर स्ट्रक्चर्ड वेनी सांगितलं. म्हणजे बँकेमध्ये कस्टमरनी एंटर केली, त्यांनी सिक्युरिटी गार्डच्या तिथे इन्फॉर्मेशन काउंटरला विचारलं, ओके मला पैसे भरायचे आहेत किंवा मला पैसे काढायचे आहेत. तो काउंटरवाल्यांनी त्याला सांगितलं, ओके यू कॅन गो टू काउंटर नंबर 3 or काउंटर नंबर 4 रिस्पेक्ट. And then that will be a controlled process, and that you are observing and you are collecting data from that. So this is one way. Then another method of collecting and primary data is the interview method. This is a very simple method, interview method. You can just ask question to the person or to that particular, on that particular topic, to the particular respondent, and you are collecting the data. This interview could be a structured interview, could be an unstructured interview. Structured interview मध्ये काय असेल, तुमच्याकडे एक सेट ऑफ क्वेश्चन असेल, जे सेट ऑफ क्वेश्चन तुम्ही त्या इंटरव्ह्यूअरला विचारणार. अनस्ट्रक्चर्ड मध्ये इट डिपेंड्स, तुम्हाला त्यावेळेस जे सुचलं त्यावेळेस ते तुम्ही त्यांना विचार. इन दॅट अनस्ट्रक्चर्ड फोकस्ड इंटरव्ह्यू, with that particular focus, okay, you have this particular focus that you want an information only about this point from that particular person. So attention is focused on the given experience of the respondent and its possible effect. Clinical interviews, these are clinical interviews, they are going to be used by the doctors, psychiatrists, okay, or in general doctors, homeopathic doctors. They do have a long clinical interview where they analyze the person based on his day-to-day activities. That means hour to hour activities. Homeopathic doctor कडे जर आपण आपल्यापैकी कोणी गेलेला असेल, if we have been visited any homeopathic doctor, what the homeopathic doctor is going to do, he will take a pen and paper. First of all, I face the same thing when I go to the homeopathic doctor. That's why I'm giving you that example. Now he's going to ask you few questions, and based on that few questions he's going to identify what is your disease or what is your problem, why you are getting that problem. Like he will ask you the way you consume food, at what time you consume food, how much you will consume food, what type of food you will consume, that you consume that. So that these questions he will ask, and he will then come to know at the end, he will come to know about what kind of defect or what kind of disease or what kind of mind thought you have about that particular for that particular disease. Then there is another way, is the group interview. A group of 6 to 8 individuals or 10 individuals will be asked different questions, and their opinions will be collected on qualitative and quantitative interview, divided on the basis of subject matter. That means whether quality or quantity. This is based on quality. What quality means? Quality of that particular product or quality of that particular subject. Okay, and that. Then individual interviews. Single person interview. Individually you are going to meet. Selection interviews. This is going to be used for certain job application. Job साठी वापरतात selection interview. Depth interview will be for ethical unconsciousness. Means electrical म्हणल्यापेक्षा आपण त्याला असं म्हणू की it deliberate aims to unconsciousness as well as other type of material relating especially to the personality, dynamics and motivation. So depth interview will ask the doctor or the psychiatrist will take a depth interview so that he will understand what is your thought about that particular topic, what is your thought about that particular instance or whatever. Okay, now in this interview method, there is one type of interview which is called as a personal interview or the individual interview. You can say individual interview, where you are going to in this personal interview you have a structured and unstructured way. You can collect the data through structured and unstructured way. In structured way, you have flexibility in asking question, predetermined question, because they are structured means it is already you have some set of questions, and that set of questions you are going to ask. You are going to ask the first question, second question, third question, or you are going to ask first question, third question, sixth question, fourth question, third question. Again, likewise, you can play and you are going to ask that particular 10 set of questions, 10 questions. Okay, standardized technique, deep knowledge and skill. For this one, for personal interview, you need deep knowledge and skill, because without deep knowledge and skill, you cannot take a personal interview. Analysis of the data, if you are collected the data in this way, it becomes very easier to analyze the data. In non-structured way, there is no predetermined questionnaire. You can ask anything, whatever comes in your mind, and then on the basis of that, you are going to collect the data. Interviewer is freedom to ask anything. Like if I am taking an interview of a student, what I'm going to ask the student about the subject. Suddenly I can switch over and asking something in sports. Suddenly I switch over and ask him something about the political conditions in its region. Likewise, I am changing the topic. So it is not in a structured way, it is an unstructured way. You are going to analyze or you are going to generate the data. And this unstructured way don't need any kind of skill. And the data is very difficult to analyze. Why? Because you are getting a scattered data. You don't have a fixed point which is going to be answered, or which is going to be which you are going to be marked, or you are going to give a mark to that particular point, and then you are going to take out the result or something like take out the results of that or analyze that particular point. So it is the data which you are going to by this process is basically difficult to understand. There are some merits, demerits, everything is there with this particular. What is the demerit of this information? At a greater depth, you will get flexibility and restructuring the questionnaire is possible in this, depending on the circumstances, depending on the particular person. Interview by his skill can come over. Resistance means with that particular, if the person is not answering any question, if that respondent is not answering any question, you have your skills to be used to get the answer from that person, to say the person to talk. Okay, no response, generally very low. In this case, you will the no response न भेटणं हे शक्यच नाही. काहीतरी तुम्हाला response भेटतं. Samples can control more effectively. Means you can control the samples very effectively. Personal information can be obtained. Personally, personal interview मध्ये personal information तुम्हाला घेता येते. Interviewer can collect supplementary information about respondents' personal characteristics and environment, which has value in interpreting the result. So, interpreting the result. Okay, there are some demerits also. Personal interview demerits. Demerits काय? Supervisor has to do complex work of selecting, training, and supervising the field staff. System errors may be occurred. So there may be system errors which will occur. It takes more time when samples are more. So personal interview will take longer time if more number of people are there. Some executive people are not approachable, so the data collection may not be adequate, or it is inadequate. Means enough data तुम्हाला मिळत नाही. Respondent may give biased information. Like I can give any kind of biased information that I am biased under the influence of something, and I'm just praising that thing to say. And it is an expensive method. It is an expensive means we are talking not in money, in terms of time, expensive. And then another kind of interview which is a telephonic interview, where you don't personally have to go to that particular person. You have to give a call on his phone or on his at his home landline phone or mobile phone, and then you have to collect the data. Okay, there are some merits to this one. It is flexible. You can collect the information at any time depending on the availability of that person. This is a faster way. You have stipulated. You have a fixed questionnaire. You can quickly ask the questionnaire and you can finish it up. Like the calls which we are getting from after if we purchase something from a shop, and then we are getting a feedback call from them. They have a particular questionnaire, and we must have give the marks based from 0 to 10, like 0 is disagree and 10 is agree, and in between, like that. So you will normally give 8, 9, 8, 9, 8, 9 marks, and that method is a telephonic method. Then callbacks are very simple. If the person is not available at that time, you can call him back afterwards. High response than mailing method. पत्र पाठवून घेण्यापेक्षा याला हायर टेलिफोनिक मेथडला हायर रिस्पॉन्स मिळतो. नो, याला फील्ड स्टाफची गरज नाही. Wider distribution of sample is possible, means I can call the person who is sitting in the Nanded, I can call a person who is there in West Bengal, I can call a person who is using the same service in West Bengal, who is going to be using the same service in Delhi, same service in Bombay, same service in Chennai. So I can collect the data all over the India, likewise, just by sitting at one place. Demerits, त्याच्यामध्ये थोडे demerits पण आहेत, like little time to be given to the respondent. Can respondent ला तुम्ही phone करताय म्हणजे you are going to give 2 minutes or 3 minutes to that person to talk. So that's a limited time. In that time, if the person can give you proper response, you will going to get good data. If you don't give a response, he just hesitate to give the response, you are not going to get the data. Survey is restricted to respondent who have telephone. म्हणजे सर्वे इज रेस्ट्रिक्टेड, म्हणजे हा सर्वे हे जर करायचा असेल तुम्हाला पर्सनल किंवा टेलिफोनिक इंटरव्ह्यू, that respondent must have a telephone. If you don't have a telephone, you cannot take a telephonic interview. It may be possible that a biasing person who is sitting near to the respondent and he is biasing him. No, you have to tell this, you have to tell this, you have to tell this, like that. You may get a biased information. And this method is very difficult to make questionnaire because it should short. The questionnaire must be short and to the point. Particular point she's related by. त्याच्यामुळे ही एक मेथड आहे टेलिफोनिक इंटरव्ह्यूची, but that method is not so applicable everywhere. In some cases it may be. Now there is another method which is going to be the questionnaire method. Now library science people or social science people may know this method. They have this stipulated questionnaire which is prepared, because normally in a year, now because of this corona situation, last 2 years I didn't get any library student who came to us with a questionnaire about the library. Otherwise every year we used to get 2-3 students, library science students. They come with the stipulated questionnaire, 4-5 pages questionnaire, and they'll ask, there are some questions, and they said that, okay sir, you just fill this thing in your free time, and I will come and collect next Monday or next Tuesday after 1 week or 2 weeks. So that have a fixed questionnaire where this questionnaire method. This questionnaire method also have some merits. It is a low cost. Answers are in respondent words, so free from bias. So respondent स्वतःच्या शब्दामध्ये ते explain करतो, त्यामुळे ते free from bias. Adequate time for answer. म्हणजे तुम्हाला भरपूर वेळ मिळतो, 1 आठवड्याचा वेळ मिळतो तुम्हाला ते उत्तर त्याचं लिहिण्यासाठी. Non-approachable respondent may be conveniently contacted. That means you can just slide in the questionnaire from his door in his cabin, and you just leave the message in the office that, okay, I have slided in I have just put the questionnaire in your room, and you just have to answer. I'll connect in 1 week or something like that. That can also be possible. And this is a method in which you can collect a large number of data. Large number of samples can be collected, and the results in this case will become more reliable. There are some demerits: low rate of return of duly filled questionnaire. It may be possible that the student has given me the questionnaire. I said, okay, I'll give you after 1 week, and I'm out of station after 1 week for 2 months. So the student who is supposed to get my questionnaire, a field questionnaire, is not going to get that. Like out of 10, 4 or 2 or 3 people they may miss. So there is a low rate of return. Means 10 मधनं समजा 7-8च परत आले, बाकीचे 2-3 परतच नाही. It may happen because you are giving that, you are not sitting in front of that person and you are sitting somewhere else. You just gave the questionnaire to that person and you are saying that I'll come after 1 week and you can please fill it up. It may be possible. It is inflexible omission of some questions. Means the respondent may give answers to few questions, may not give answers to few questions if you don't like that questions, or he don't know about that question. He not he will just omit that question. He just leave that question blank. Difficult to know the expect respondent have filled the form or not, or it is filled by someone else or not, or someone else. म्हणजे मला फॉर्म दिला, मीच भरलाय का माझ्या विद्यार्थ्यांनी भरलाय का मी माझ्या घरी घेऊन गेलो आणि माझ्या मिसेसला भरायला सांगितलं किंवा माझ्या मुलीला मुलाला आईला बाबाला भरायला सांगितलं आणि त्यांनी भरून दिला आणि मी परत आणून दिला. That student don't know anything about it. He just think that I filled up that because he has given to me, so I filled that form and I'm giving that to him. So he don't know about who has actually filled. The slowest method of data collection, because it's a time consuming method, so it's a slow method of data collection. There are aspects to the questionnaires, means how the questionnaire is. You can put in general way, you can put in structured way, you can put in objective way, you can put in short answer way. Respondent will give answer in his own words, because if you put in short answer, answer in his own words, then the questionnaire sequence also, question sequence also matters a lot in that. If the question sequence is not clear, it's not smoothly moving, the respondent will not give answer to that. Okay, so that will create a confusion in the mind. So what are the essentials to create a good questionnaire? Is the short, the question must be short and simple. It should not have any technical errors. It should not have any technical terms or technical errors. It have questionnaire affecting the sentiment. You have to omit the question which are affecting the sentiment of the respondent. Okay, you have to avoid that. Adequate space and answer should be provided in the questionnaire. Provision of uncertainty means he may ask, he may not ask, like that. Directions regarding filling the question should be given. So the questionnaire should be, the direction of filling the questionnaire must be given with that. Now, physical appearance of the questionnaire. You cannot print the questionnaire on any page. If you want some data regarding that particular, means you're standing on a petrol, you're going to a petrol pump and you're for filling up fuel in your vehicle. Now over there, if somebody will come to you and they will just hand over a form, sir, this is the questionnaire, can you please fill up this questionnaire for me? So it do regarding the petrol pump, regarding the service, regarding anything else, like which vehicle you are using, when it is bought, what fuel you are putting, diesel or petrol, or you are using the CNG or natural gas, gas, cooking, like methane gas or something like that. So they are using these kind of questions, and they are collecting the data regarding the vehicle or regarding that can be used for further telemarketing or any other purpose. But they have this kind of, and if that paper on which they are printing these questions, if that paper is very low quality paper in the sense, I'm not giving any I'm not putting any impression on your mind that this paper is good quality or this paper is bad quality. Means a very low quality paper, which is even a newspaper having good quality paper, but below than that, if you are printing the questionnaire on that kind of paper, that questionnaire is not going to be used. Nobody is going to use that questionnaire. They will just throw this questionnaire because the quality of the paper is not there. But if you print a questionnaire on a glossy paper, on a very high quality paper, even if the question, whatever questions you have are not related with that particular person, but that person will have a look to that questionnaire. Okay, what questions they have asked. So the quality of paper also matters when you construct and question. A plain paper, plain white paper is the best paper to use for the questioning, for collecting the data. Likewise. Okay, so the physical appearance of the paper, the color which you are going to use, they are also important in this particular way. Now, how to construct a questionnaire? The questionnaire must have general, like that kind of whatever we have discussed earlier. Then there is another method, is the schedule method. In this schedule method, you can talk about the social problems in particular schedule in that particular time span. Schedule in the sense की time span. आपण त्याला time span म्हणू. एका वेळातला म्हणजे या वर्ष 2012 ते 2017 मधला तो शेड्यूल मेथड. त्या शेड्यूलमध्ये काय काय झालं, त्याच्यामध्ये काय काय झालं, त्याच्यासाठी तुम्हाला क्वेश्चनेअर, म्हणजे कुठला भूकंप आला समजा किंवा काही पूर आलाय, त्या पुराच्या संदर्भात तुम्हाला काहीतरी क्वेश्चनेअर, तुम्ही सोशल ऍस्पेक्ट ऑफ दॅट पर्टिक्युलर विलेज, you are going to collect the data on that. So you have to prepare the questionnaire around in that particular stipulated time, and you have to prepare a questionnaire regarding that. Okay, so these are the schedule, and in this schedule method you need somebody to explain more to the people. So okay, as means you have to appoint somebody who can make understood this questionnaire to the common people. So this is one kind of investing in that schedule method, investment in that schedule method. Then the case study method, you can study case by case. You are going to study in case you are getting you are generating the data case by case, particular case. In this particular village, for this particular flood problem, for the sugarcane issue, for the wheat issue, for the rice issue, how the rice is growing in that particular region. Like this is a case study. Like whatever research, clinical research is going on. The clinical research is basically on case study. Social research is going to be on the case studies. Likewise, then there are another method which is a panel method. In the panel method, you have this method of data collection is from the same sample respondent at some interval, either by mail or by interview or personal interview. In this method, data is collected from the same person, but now after 1 year, then again after 1 year, then again after 1 year, and then you are going to analyze that data. Like for this one, you have particular methods where you are going to analyze the expenditure pattern, the consumer behavior, effectiveness of the advertisement, voting behavior, and many more. And you are observing these things many more in solving this problem. Now, this is about these 6 methods are about, or these above methods are about collecting and primary data. You are collecting and primary data. Then the secondary data, you can collect the secondary data. As we said, the secondary data is very simple, and you can collect the secondary data through public or government institutions or offices, or like banks, or from books or newspaper, from internet blogs, or like that kind of, from research scholars, from universities, public records, everywhere, anywhere, from anywhere you can collect the secondary data. It is about the attendance or that kind of thing. Now, advantages of secondary data: no hassle to get the data. तुम्हाला जास्त मेहनत करावं लागणार नाही डेटा घ्यायला. Less expensive आहे. You just have to go and collect the figures, and then you are going to analyze that. The investigator is not personally responsible for the quality of the data. So this is the one more point. Secondary data, समजा मी जर secondary data collect केला, तर मी responsible राहणार नाही त्या point साठी. का? Because I am getting the secondary data. The primary data is already collected by someone else. So I have to trust on him to get the data. मला त्याच्यावर विश्वास ठेवावा लागेल. आता disadvantages काय आहे secondary data? The data collected by a third party may not be reliable. एक तर reliabilityचा इश्यू येतो. त्याच्यानंतर is not suitable to every point. Means प्रत्येकाला एकच डेटा suitable राहणार नाही. With the passage of time, the data becomes obsolete or very old. जुना डेटा होऊन जातो हा. Secondary data collection can distort the result of the research. For using secondary data, a special care is required to amend or modify for use. म्हणजे तुम्हाला एक स्पेशल परमिशन लागेल किंवा स्पेशल केअर घ्यावी लागेल, जेणेकरून तुम्हाला तो डेटा अपडेट करून घ्यावा लागेल on a sequence of time, on a particular time, and then that data you can use it for your analysis purpose. Like the data which you are getting on in the share market, like commodity prices. So that data you are going to use that commodity price data, but that data I can data like 6 years old data, and I can consider that price today, and then I'll put the model in front. It is not possible. You have to collect the 6 years old data, but that data is 6 years old now, and today is almost 2021. So you also have to need to see what is the value today. After 6 years, what is the value? And then you are started analyzing, and then you will come to the conclusion. So secondary data can also raise issues of authenticity and copyright that have a copyright issue and all those things. factors to be considered before using secondary data. Secondary data वापरायच्या पहिले जे काय factors, कुठले factors आहेत जे तुम्हाला consider करायचे. The factors you need to consider. What are those factors? The factors are reliability, suitability, adequate data, and area difference. Means reliability means from where, who, when, which method is used to collect the data at what time. Suitability is what object is going to be used to, what object is studied to collect the data. What is the scope, nature of originality, original inquiry. Level of accuracy, how much is the accuracy? If you're saying something about the census, how much is the accuracy? 100% accuracy is required, or 99.99% accuracy is required. Like area differences, then the data is not adequate for study. Means Maharashtra नांदेडचा data तुम्ही लातूरला किंवा लातूरचा data तुम्ही नांदेडला नाही लावू शकता. Okay, now selection of proper method for data collection. Now to select a data, to collect the data or to use the data, you need a particular proper method to collect the data. What is the proper method? So you have to define that proper method in that particular manner. Now you have to define you have to put some point to collect the data. The nature of the data, scope of the data, and objective of the object of inquiry. काय केलेलं आहे, कशासाठीचा डेटा आहे, कोणी कलेक्ट केलेला आहे, कसा डेटा आहे, availability of funds, how you are going to get that data. Funds means availability. Time factor, किती वेळ आहे तुमच्याकडे किती वेळ आहे. समजा तुमच्याकडे तुम्हाला तुमचा प्रोजेक्ट करायचा आहे, तुम्हाला पीएचडीचा तुमचा वेळ आहे 3 वर्षाचा आणि तुम्हाला सेन्ससचा डेटा सांगितलं, तर सेन्ससचा डेटा तर 5 वर्षाला एकदा येतो. आता तसं जर तुम्ही विचार केला तर तुम्ही टाइम फॅक्टर वरती तुम्ही मागे पडता. That means you need a data which is there for last 20 years. At least 3 sets of data is required for this purpose, for taking out any result. So time factor is more important over there. And then precision, kiti accuracy. Accuracy, precision means accuracy, how accurate it is. Let's say accuracy is 95%. That means there are 5% error in that. You have to consider that also before collecting any kind of data from any source. So these are the few methods which are going to be used to collect the primary as well as the secondary data for research purpose. I think this is going to be all for my today's presentation. Thank you guys. This is all. If you guys have any question, you can go ahead and ask. Gingine sir. Gingine sir. Okay. I don't know who have raised the hands. Wagmare. Prakash Wagmare, you have raised the hand.
Yes, sir. Hello.
Yes, bola.
Yeah, I'm audible, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, I have a question that you earlier just mentioned that census comes under secondary data, but I have an objection regarding this. You know, census data doesn't come under secondary data, isn't it? Because it's a primary data, and if I'm writing,
I'm saying that if you are going to use the census data, you are the secondary person who is going to use the data. The primary person, the government institution, is the authentic source who have connected that data as a primary data. Then they have analyzed the data and then they will give it to the researcher to do his research on that. So that's why it's secondary data. Otherwise, it is in primary data.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. Muhammad Ali.
Muhammad Ali, unmute yourself.
Sir, actually, it is amazing session. Thank you for this new knowledge. Also, I want you, if you possible, share the PDF.
Pardon, I didn't get you. Can you please again? Okay, you want this PPT?
Yes.
Okay. I'll send it to Gingine sir. He will distribute to you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, no issue. Anybody else?
वाघमारे प्रकाश. Unmute yourself.
Yes, त्यांनी बोलले.
Hello, sir. I'm not satisfied with your answer. Listen.
Yes, sir.
Suppose I'm writing an article on population census, okay, or population particularly, and
Okay.
I'm using population census, that is government data. So, in which category that data will come? I mean that sensor. This is my first primary source or secondary?
So that was the data which is primarily collected by the government authorities from
Okay.
the public. Okay.
Yeah.
So that data is collected by them. So primary data is with the government. And
Okay.
that data they are going to provide you for your research purpose. So you are a secondary person who is using that data. So that's why it is called as a secondary data.
Okay.
In that sense, it becomes a secondary data. Otherwise, if that data is going to be only used by the government authorities, then that will be just a primary data.
Okay. Okay. Fine.
Yeah. Happy?
Ghosh Ananya. Unmute your side, Ghosh Ananya, madam.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Sir,
ma'am.
I think to ask was, at least I understood it as that is there a difference between primary source and primary data?
Yes, definitely. The
Yeah,
difference.
so I think that was something that the previous
No,
person was looking for.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Wagmare
So could you please explain that? Maybe that would help us all get that clarity.
Okay. Primary source means the source is basically a few group of people. Like if we're talking about a census data. Okay. So the primary source of that, where from that data is going to be generated, that data is going to be generated from the public. Right? So the source is going to be the public. And who got the data? The government authorities got the data. That means the census people, the government authorities, they get the data. And that data which they have generated based on the questionnaire, based on the answers which they get from the public, that data they are going to be added, or that data is going to be generated. That data is called as a primary data. The primary source is the public who are going to answer the questions or who are going to be counted. Then the data which is generated from their answers, from their counting, that is going to be the primary data. Is that okay, ma'am?
She said yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. I hope all of you got the. Yes, one more answer. I think somebody has raised the hand.
Ajay Kumar Yadav.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
So suppose that I want to research in, sir, I want to research in any historical place. Okay. Sir, where you get the information, whatever here is present, like some articles or anything which were put in the museum or places. So is that data is primary or secondary?
So, sir, that data is the secondary data. Because primarily, if you found that object museum, that means regarding that data, regarding that object, somebody has already done some research, and later on he find it out that okay, this is the stone or this is the object which I found it in this cave or something like that, some historical place, and he already defined what is that, and then he put it for the information of the public or for the researchers. He put it in a museum or in some reserve or some place. So that becomes a secondary data. Primary data was already collected, which was there in words under that particular object.
Sir, can you give any example regarding primary and secondary data?
Okay, if we go to any kind of or any fort, आपण किल्ल्यावरती गेलो कुठल्याही. Do you understand Marathi?
no sir, speaking Hindi or English?
Okay, हम किले पे जाते हैं ना, we go on forts normally, and we on forts we have certain places where these cannons are going to be kept. वहाँ पे वो ये क्या बोलते हैं उसको, तोफ रखी जाती है. So that cannon is that data is already there in history. That this is the name of that cannon, this is the thing, what is the material is going to be used to prepare that particular cannon, and then that is displayed under the cannon on a panel, under the cannon on a panel. That gives that thing, that particular cannon or that particular object is already been discovered by somebody or already been studied by somebody, and it is kept for others to study or others to have a look on that. So this is one kind of example where historical places you regarding your question.
Okay sir, thank you.
Or some kind of statue, like whatever the statues they got it from the which was the university, oldest university, Nalanda University.
Yes, in Patna.
Yes. Over there they got the objects, no? That was studied by the archaeological people, and that data which they have generated from the first study isn't primary data, and that if you are going to use it for your research purpose, that becomes a secondary data.
Okay sir, thank you sir.
Yes, no problem. My pleasure.
सर प्लीज कंटिन्यू.
सर झालंय माझं सर.
झालंय का सर?
येस येस.
म्हणजे आपण शेवटचे 20 ते 25 मिनिटं क्वेश्चनिंग आणि आन्सरिंग साठी ठेवतो सर. आपलं आज लवकर झाल्यामुळे सर. किरण अरुण वाणी.
किरण वाणी कोणीतरी आहे.
येस, अनम्यूट युअर साइड. किरण वाणी.
हाँ सर बोला.
एनी क्वेश्चन? किरण वाणी? I think no.
No. Okay.
Okay. कवठेकर अनिल, प्लीज आस्क युअर क्वेश्चन.
सर आता तुम्ही जो प्रायमरी आणि सेकंडरी डेटा सांगितला ना, तर त्याच्यावरती आधीच्या पण एका लेक्चर मध्ये चर्चा झाली होती. आणि त्यावेळेस
सर तुमचा आवाज येत नाही.
त्यावेळेस त्या मॅडमनी काय केलं. अच्छा सर, आता येतं का? हॅलो,
आवाज आपला.
अच्छा अच्छा ठीक आहे. थोडं मी अजून ह्याच्या जवळ जातो. तर सेन्ससचे जे डाटा सांगितला ना तुम्ही गव्हर्नमेंटचा, तर तो माझा पण काल तो कन्फ्युजन होता. तर त्यावेळेस मॅडमनी तो प्राथमिक डाटा सांगितला आणि आता सेकंडरी घेतला. तर मग ते माझ्या डोक्यात कन्फ्युजन आहे. डाटा प्राथमिक.
जर तो गव्हर्नमेंट ऑथॉरिटीकडे जो डेटा आहे तो प्रायमरी डेटा आहे सर त्यांच्याकडे, आणि आपण ज्यावेळेस त्यांच्याकडनं घेतोय त्या अर्थी तो सेकंडरी डेटा झाला.
हा म्हणजे तो सेकंडरी झाला ना, तो गव्हर्नमेंटकडे तो प्राथमिक, आणि तो पहिलं काम त्यांनी त्याच्यावर केलेलं आहे.
राईट, त्यांनी अनालिसिस त्याच्यावरती केलं.
येस येस येस.
आणि मग आपल्याला
काल आम्ही दोघं मित्र त्याच्यावर चर्चा केली. तर त्यावेळेस पण मी हेच म्हटलं की अरे तो सेकंडरी होता, पण मॅडम फर्स्ट म्हणाल्यात. तर म्हटलं बघ परत कोणीतरी चर्चा केली तर आपण कन्फर्म करूया. थँक्यू सर.
नो प्रॉब्लेम. येस.
शिरसाट संजीव. Yes, sir. Ask your question.
गेले ते.
करणे आनंद.
हॅलो सर.
हा बोला.
सर यावर प्रश्न कसा येईल सर? आला तर मोठा प्रश्न येईल का टिप देईल?
कशावर म्हणताय तुम्ही? या
सेकंडरी आणि प्रायमरी डाटा संदर्भात.
क्वेश्चन पॅटर्न बद्दल यू कॅन आस्क गिनगिने सर. I cannot tell you anything about that.
Next one is Chavan Ramesh.
हॅलो.
हा बोला सर.
हा नमस्कार सर.
नमस्कार.
सर आता तुम्ही जे म्हणत होता की सेन्ससचा जो डाटा आहे ना की सेकंडरी आहे म्हणून, पण मला काय माहिती, जो पब्लिक कडून डाटा कलेक्ट केला गव्हर्नमेंटनी, त्याच्यावरती जरी गव्हर्नमेंटने तो वापरला असेल तो डाटा, तर तो ऍज इट इज जशाला तसाच डाटा आहे, त्याच्यावर प्रोसेस नाही केलेली काही. जो डाटा कलेक्ट केलेला आहे तो तसाच आहे.
हो ना.
मग आपल्याला तो प्रायमरी मध्ये कन्सिडर होईल, कारण त्याच्यावर
पण-
जर काही त्यांनी चेंजेस केले असतील त्या डाटामध्ये, जर
हा.
चेंजेस आपण केले असतील तर आपण त्याला म्हणू सेकंडरी डाटा. तो
पण
डाटा ऍज इट इज आहे.
आपण तो कलेक्ट नाही केलाय ना सर. तो आपण
Collect
कलेक्ट
जरी आपण नसलं,
पर्सनली तुम्ही जर कलेक्ट केला तर तुम्ही त्याला प्रायमरी डाटा म्हणू शकता. आणि तो पहिल्यांदाच कलेक्ट झाला पाहिजे त्यांच्याकडे, तरच.
नाही पण मला काय म्हणतो, त्याच्यामध्ये गव्हर्नमेंटनं काही चेंजेस केलेले नाही, ऍज इट इज आहे ना तो डाटा, असं म्हणतोय मी.
हो ना, गव्हर्नमेंटने तो चेंजेस केले असं म्हणता येणार नाही आपल्याला. काय होतं, जनरली सेन्ससचा जो डेटा होतो तो नंतर कलेक्ट करून त्याचं अनालिसिस होतं. जरी तुम्हाला त्याच्यामधनं तुम्हाला त्यांनी फिगर्स मिळत असतील की ह्या रिजन मध्ये पब्लिक मध्ये एवढ्या वयोमानाची एवढे आहेत, एवढ्या वयोमानाची एवढे आहेत, हे त्यांनी कसं सांगितलं तुम्हाला? हे त्यांनी अनालिसिस करूनच सांगितलं ना. का त्यांनी इंडिव्हिज्युअल पर्सनचा डेटा सांगितला, हा या वयाचा आहे, हा या वयाचा आहे, हा असं नाही सांगितलं ना. या वयोमानातले एवढे लोक आहेत, या वयोमानातले एवढे आहेत, या वयोमानातले एवढे आहेत. आणि तुम्ही काय करता, तुम्ही ती फिगर कन्सिडर करता. या 15 वर्षाच्या खालचे किती, 18 वर्षाच्या खालचे किती आहेत, 18 वर्षाच्या खालचे 35% लोक आहेत. तर आपण ते 35% कन्सिडर करतो ना, आपण इंडिव्हिज्युअली नाही कन्सिडर करत. त्यामुळे तो इंडिव्हिज्युअल डेटा येतच नाही. म्हणजे तो तसा प्रायमरी मध्ये आपल्याला जो मिळतो तो प्रायमरी मध्ये मिळतच नाही, आपल्याला तो सेकंडरी मध्ये अनालिसिस करतो, असं माझं म्हणणं.
थँक्यू.
इज दॅट ओके सर?
ओके.
ओके सर, थँक्यू व्हेरी मच.
ओके.
कारण की आता मला नाही वाटत कोणाचे प्रश्न किंवा डाऊट असतील.
ओके, नो इश्यू.
तर